call the police. They're on their way.
Well, there's nothing more to say then, is there?
I wanted to say goodbye.
Why are you doing this?
It's gonna be all right. Yeah?
Listen, thank you. For understanding.
Yeah.
But you, on the other hand, you know, you're up on this internet. You know, you're up to speed on this stuff.
Oh, this isn't anything to do with me.
No, we'll just, you know, see if he's been... What's the word, you know, it begins with C.
Catfished. Dotty. It's you, isn't it? You're Sophia.
I just had a phone call from Ireland. This Dot. She's died.
EastEnders falls out of the top spot to number 2 for November 2022 after several months of being number 1 in my rankings. They kind of fizzled out at the end of their main story. I'm going to talk about that story first. The drama with the Penasars has been amazing. It was a great story. It kind of... It didn't come to an end completely, but one of the main dynamics of the story is now gone. Ranveer's death has sent shockwaves through this family, with, of course, it looking like Suki's going to have to take the fall, even though it was really Ravi who ended up killing Ranveer in the end. So Suki and Ravi go and give their talks to the police, give their sides of the story, but of course Ravi and Nina have been plotting for a while. They had been plotting to take Ranveer's money, but now that this has happened to Ranveer, Nina wants Ravi to make sure that Suki is the one that takes the fall for all of this going on. And while all this is happening, the police also suspect Nina. You know, Nina is the wife of the deceased Ranveer. After Ranveer's body is found, I forgot to mention that part, his body was found, which is why all of this started happening. But thanks to Nina, Ravi does end up kind of throwing Suki under the bus. And this is after the family thinks Ravi just totally has their back, especially after he's not kind of being accepted at the family dinners, even though Nish wants him to be. But he must be accepted after Nish finally tells the family that Ravi is also his son. Nish, of course, being a hypocrite here because he was so jealous of Suki, or suspecting that Suki was having an affair with a man, even though she was really having an affair with the man's wife, which he still doesn't know, I don't think. That he was so jealous he killed that man that he thought Suki was having an affair with, even though the whole time he had his own affair and had a child in Ravi. But this was the dynamics of this family for the last few months. The dynamics of the family is what made it such compelling television for many months. The story kind of moved fast. I think they could have maybe gotten even more drama out of all of these reveals and whatnot. But I think it moving at a good pace, I wouldn't say it was too fast, but it moving at a good pace is also what made it such a good storyline too. Now, one of the main dynamics of this story was the fact of Ravi and Kheerat finding out their brothers after having this already bad dynamic together. But when the wall started to close in on Suki, thanks to Nina and Ravi's plotting, and Ravi comes clean with Nish and Kheerat about this, about Nina kind of having blackmail on him because he was also involved in the cover-up of Ranveer's death, even though he actually is the one that killed Ranveer in the end because he woke up. So he admits everything, including the affair with Nina, but he isn't going to take the fall for Suki. Suki's not his mother. And so we kind of get the random ending to this of Kheerat taking the fall for Suki, because Kheerat doesn't think Suki will survive in prison, that she has this cold exterior but really won't survive. So Kheerat ends up taking the fall, and that's kind of just it with that side of the story. Kheerat's going to prison for the foreseeable future, it seems like, even though he hasn't been found guilty. We didn't really get any closure with the Nina side of the story. Just that Ravi leaves her and they have a fight. And so it was such a great story until kind of this ending, which just kind of fizzled out in the end. Now, there's still some good dynamics. We still have Suki in love with Eve, and Eve's now been trying to help Nish with his business sides of things, even though Suki doesn't want her to. Suki wants her out of her life, even though she's really in love with her. But Suki needs to move on with Nish now that Nish is out of prison, move on with the family. So there's still some good dynamics left, but Kheerat going to prison left a big hole in the dynamics now, and it sadly killed the momentum of the story. I think even though this story still has some legs, it does not have as much legs without Kheerat involved with the dynamics. But we'll see where it goes. I'm sad that the story had to fizzle out that way, because it was arguably the best story on soap operas this year. At the beginning of the year, Coronation Street had a good story, still going from last year too. But yeah, EastEnders really brought it with this story until it sadly kind of fizzled out. Hopefully Ash will get more to do in Vinny, because they're underwritten in the family and they need to be written more. But because of this turn of events, that's really the reason why I dropped EastEnders one spot. I don't think it deserved to still have the top spot after they fizzled out their best story. I don't know if the story was just to write out Kheerat in the end. It felt random in the end. I don't know if Kheerat will come back sooner rather than later, but he was announced to be exiting, would seem permanently. Yeah, I don't know. It took a lame turn, I will say. Another solid story is Lola's brain tumor. I think they continue to do a great job with this, especially Lola having to tell Lexi that she has cancer and could be dying. And then it eventually comes out publicly when Janine is being horrible to Lola. Lexi ends up revealing that Lola has cancer publicly when everyone's at the pub watching the World Cup. So yeah, they're still doing good with the story. It's sad. I've said it before on this channel and I'll say it again. Watching cancer stories, I don't really like it. So the story might be good, but it doesn't mean I enjoy watching it, which I guess is kind of the point. But also, it's a little too much for me, honestly. So this was probably their second best story, but it's so depressing that it's not another reason for me to put it at number one. That's for sure. We'll talk about a few other stories here. The whole Mick and Janine side of things, and even Alfie getting close to Linda, and just Alfie's story in general. Alfie's story in general this past month, I guess it was supposed to be comedy relief, but it was just fast forward material for me. Definitely fast forward material with Alfie. I'm not even going to talk about it. It's not worth talking about. But Mick and Janine having to... She's pregnant with Mick's baby, but there's complications with the pregnancy. And Sonia's been trying to get Janine to just tell Mick the truth of everything she's been plotting and doing. Janine, of course, refuses to do that. Janine just continues to get colder and colder and more unlikable as the episodes go on. It seems as though Sonia calls Ricky to end the month of November. I've only watched up till the end of November. But Ricky, a classic character, maybe he will be able to get through Janine's ice cold self at least a little bit to come clean and move the story along. You know, the Panesar drama was so good, but the story moved at a good pace. Like I said, I won't say it was too fast. It moved at a good pace. This story needs to move faster. It's not moving fast enough for my liking. I'm ready to move on from the Mick and Janine and Linda stuff. Sam's ex, Don, came to town for a week, and that was terrible. Don was a bumbling idiot character. Didn't like that side of the story. I guess that was supposed to be played for laughs too, maybe. But we do get some serious stuff with Sam later when she walks in on Amy cutting herself. The cutting story went away for a few weeks, and then it came back pretty quickly with Amy being found out as a cutter. We also had Sam kissing Zach. Not going to talk about Sam or Zach. But they're kind of using the Amy story to further put problems between Jack and Denise, as Jack keeps going for Sam to advice. Jack's been just hollering at everyone and trying to make people do things. They've certainly turned... I've gone from I don't care about the character of Jack at all to I can't stand watching the character of Jack because they made him so annoying. I don't know which of those is worse, honestly. But yeah, Jack's been leaning on Sam, and Denise has been seeing that happening. Jack's been drinking a lot as that's happening. When it comes out, Sam reveals that Amy is cutting herself. Jack's been trying to get her to stop by just wanting to lock her in a room and keep her in the house and not listening to Amy. Meanwhile, Denise is trying to listen to Amy and finally seems to have a good conversation with Amy. Those were some good scenes between Denise and Amy that I enjoyed. But the Jack side of things, he's just become really obnoxious. Lastly, Dottie has been catfishing Harvey to take money from him. I think, spoiler alert, Dottie seems to be exiting too, which brings me to my last point of the month for November. Ton of exits on EastEnders these past few months. I would think too many exits on EastEnders these last few months. We got a lot of good stories out of some of these exits, but now it's become too much. Kheerat was the one for me that was just too much. And I think they're writing out Dottie too soon as well. There was a lot more you could do with Dottie. So I just feel like having so many exits is going to kind of extend this transition period for Clenshaw that started well, but I think the next few months are going to feel a lot like transition months, which doesn't bode well. Now, the number one show in my rankings this month is Home and Away. They're going on Christmas break, so they won't even be on in December. So EastEnders could easily get back in my top spot. I can see Shortland Street definitely challenging EastEnders for that top spot in December. I don't have faith in Hollyoaks to do it. Don't really have faith in General Hospital to do it. And then my bottom five are so bad right now, they're not going to be able to get to first place. So EastEnders can get back in first place, but I think the momentum, unfortunately, has stopped with Clenshaw, with Kheerat being written out. I think for the near future, the next couple of months, there's less possibilities of the show keeping momentum than I thought there would be. I thought we were going to have momentum into the new year, but December and January, with the stories that we have right now, might not be so good after all, or at least not good enough to be number one. But like I said, EastEnders could easily get number one in December, mostly because the competition from the other soap operas isn't good.